Welcome back to the Home Slice, guys, and welcome to my front yard. I just watched a video where Pete linked several channels and he wanted to hear what are 5 knives that give you joy, and he shot me a link, so I figure I'll give you guys a really fun and unique video for my channel. The reason we're out here in my yard, and the reason you might hear my or neighbors' children crying, playing, whatever in the background, is because New Zealand just entered a strict level 4 lockdown, which basically just means you can only go to the grocery store and there's only essential services. And as I am non-essential to society, here I am at home, but it's given me some time to film some fun videos and initiate some testing that I'm excited about. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Pete. I love the idea of this video because I think it gets back to the core, like, joy or fun that many of us who are collectors or testers or sharpeners have had at the beginning, and coming back to recognize which blades really give you that. So thanks, Pete. That said, it's gonna be kind of a funny video. You're gonna probably see my whole knife collection today. I've decided not to show any blades that have been sent to me by viewers, but only knives which I actually own or have used for quite some time. That said, you're gonna learn a little bit more about me today because my knife philosophy is a little different from most people. I tested a whole bunch of different blades, and I really love folders and pocket knives, and I got into comparing them, and I realized one day that I take less joy in my knives when I have a whole bunch of them. And actually, if I just get rid of the clutter and just use, you know, one that's like really good, then I really enjoy it. So actually, I've sort of tried to minimalize, and I technically say that I have one knife for each use. I know that's super subjective because you could make up as many uses as you want, but for me, I have an ultralight camping slicer that I only use when I go camping. I have a EDC, and I have a work knife and a work EDC, so an EDC that's a bit more fancy and a knife that I use for a bit more rugged uses. And then I have one large fixed blade and one small fixed blade, and as far as my personal ownership, that's it. That's all I have. So you're gonna see all 4 of those blades today. I'll tell you why I like them and a little bit of the story behind them. I actually had to call in my good friend Shane because I gave him a knife several years back, and I had to call him to get it back to me to shoot this video so I'd actually have 5 knives. Getting into things, I'm gonna go from 5 down to 1. So 5th place, 4th place, according to what really gives me joy when it's in my hand. So 5th place would be my work EDC. My work EDC. This you guys would have seen if you watched Pete's test of CPMMA steel with dual grit. This is my Spyderco military. It's currently got a dual grit edge. You'll see it's really reflective along that edge, quite mirror-like, and then along this edge, it's actually the 250 grit edge. And I've been carrying this knife for about 3 years now, and the thing that brings me joy about it, it's the first time I ever had a steel that was both tough, and really wear resistant at the same time. This really revived my interest in steel and metallurgy. I got this thing and I was like, man, it keeps a working edge forever. This one also brings me joy because there's actually marks from using it quite hard. I've actually been on a carpentry job and hammered this into a 2x4, and so it wobbles a little bit. Just a tiny bit, and there's the G10 is like a little bit discolored here because I noticed there's a little kind of nub of metal that sticks out there, and I wanted to see if I could use that as a glass breaker one time. So I walked by a trash can that had a big sheet of glass in it and just whoosh, like shattered the sheet of glass, and then I was like, oh, that was kind of dumb. I've lost the side screws out of this before. I have been working out in the brush and had it hook on bushes and hang there, and I recovered it. And so there's just a lot of battles fought with this knife, and I really find it it sort of tells a story when I hold it. Coming down to number 4, I would have to say my K-Bar Becker BK7. Those of you who've watched my channel have seen me do a lot with this. I just finished these black walnut handles. Oh my goodness, it's covered in crud because I just used it to slash a whole bunch of brush with. But this is the first time I've made handles out of black walnut, solid slabs of black walnut with micarta liners. This is the first time I've stabilized a handle with beeswax. I custom molded the ergonomics so that it actually fits my hand. It's asymmetrically ground, the handle, so that it fits where my fingers actually slot into the knife. And I just love the retention in the hand that gives you a lot of speed with the snap on this knife. And again, I've just put it through a lot of work. And I think the more storyline I have shared with the blade, the more I end up liking it. I'm not going to do any close-ups with this because I haven't published the video where I actually make the handles. That'll be coming in a few weeks. And so if you guys want to see close-ups, then check out the 3-part series on the handle DIY that I have made. Number 3, and this is the one that I actually had to retrieve from a friend, my friend Shane, who I gave it to, is the Benchmade 943. I love the Benchmade 940s, and I love this clip point version. There's a couple reasons why, but one of the reasons is that, as many YouTubers have stated, the normal 940 tends to be a little bit thick for fine cutting tasks. So if you're cutting up an apple or something like that with it, it's generally not as enjoyable as something that's fully flat ground. But the 943 actually begins to taper a little earlier than the 940. The 940 remains full thickness till about there, and the 943 starts tapering right here. And because of that, you can actually use this tip for fine work. You can actually slice up an apple with this portion of the blade quite enjoyably. So you get that action of a 940, you get all of that nice fit and finish of the Benchmade, you get the grip, you get the comfort of the ergonomics, you get the lightweight and the ultra slim profile. Ultra slim is like my favorite. In fact, that's one thing that I haven't really enjoyed about the Spyderco, is because you get another 1/4 inch of edge here if you line these up. Check that out. That's how much extra edge you're getting. But this is how much extra footprint you're getting. It's just massive. So I love sort of the edge to full package size ratio on a 940 knife. So good. The thing that I miss most after giving this away as a gift to my friend is this though, and most of you 940 users will identify with this. I miss this. It's so good. Again. Anyway, if you're a knife collector and you're bored with what's on the market, I'd encourage you to try out a 943. I like the blue backspacer, I like the black handles, although I like the green and the reverse tanto of a normal 940. But if you're looking for something different, bro, check out a 943. I heavily doubt you will ever regret it. All right, on to number 2. Number 2 is my Bark River Fox River EXT1 in CPM 3V steel. What I like about this blade, I love the olive drab matte micarta, linen micarta handles that I got on it. I love the grip, I love the shape of it. But I think what I love about this particular knife more than anything else is the smoothness of the overall design. The lines to me feel so like clean and no nonsense. The way that Bark River first does a flat grind and then actually convexes it means that with this reduced thickness from the normal Fox River, which I think is 0.18 or something like that. So this is like 0.15. You actually get this relatively thin, slicey profile with an amazing amount of strength behind it. And I think for all sort of normal camping, kitchen, fixed blade tasks that I ordinarily do, this is the perfect knife for me in a 4-ish inch fixed blade. I've routinely told people that after getting this, it's likely that I will never buy another small fixed blade. You guys are welcome to try to talk me out of that, but there's just been nothing wrong with this Bark River that I've experienced. The edge retention is good, the edge stability is good, the grind is good, the ergonomics are good. Just everything that I could want is reasonably answered in this fixed blade. It also was the first really nice fixed blade that I ever invested in. Before that, I think I'd spent a maximum of maybe $60 or $70 on a fixed blade. So the performance also kind of blew my mind when I first got it in hand. Number one would have to be my customized, it's still in the box that Pete sent it back to me with. I don't carry it that often, but I would walk across the house to pick it up, as Pete alluded to. This is my custom Benchmade 761 titanium ball bearing frame lock. This knife is special, and I get so much joy out of looking at it for several reasons. Number one is I did all the custom work on this. I did the acid wash and stone tumbling. I did the titanium anodizing. I did everything that turned this from a stock knife into more of a customized folder. I personally did. And it actually reminds me back of this season that I spent doing knife customizing, which I did for a while. And what's cool about this knife is the story is that I actually was partnering with a knife store owner in my small hometown in Washington State. And the guy would send me knives to customize, and then he would sell them for a little bit of an increased profit and then pay me a little bit. And he got a first production, this says first production run number 439 of 1000. He actually got this particular knife from Benchmade when they were doing their first production runs of the 761 model. And he's like, I want this for my personal knife. Would you customize it? These are the specs that I want. And I did it, and this is the result. But then since then, I've sort of sold or given away most of my knives that I did customizing on, and I sort of had this little bit of regret. But one day, I was surfing on eBay, and I found this seller that was selling this knife from Holland. So apparently my friend Aaron, who owned the knife store, had sold it to a guy in Holland, or the Netherlands I should say, and that guy was ready to sell it. And I actually bought it back from him years later after I didn't have any examples of my custom work left. And for that reason, it just harkens me back to this time when I was in a 1-bedroom apartment doing electro anodizing on the stovetop. I was running an extension cord out to my paint van because I was a residential painter at the time, through the window, and running the stone tumbler in there inside the van so I didn't wake up the other apartment residents. And it's just a really special period of my life. I'll throw up a few photos of some of the custom work that I've done, or customized finishes and stuff that I've done on knives, so that you can see them here. I think one reason that I'm really proud of this knife in particular is because of the 2-layer anodized stonewash. So I actually anodized this navy blue, or indigo you could say, and then I stonewashed it, and it removed all of these scratches. And then I re-anodized the scratches to electric blue. So if you hold it just right in the sunlight, you catch the fact that there's 2 depths and there's 2 layers of blue anodizing. And the second one is actually stonewashed in. And I've not seen a lot of people do that. So I really am proud of just how the finish turned out on this one. I'll try to capture some of those close up. Those are my 5. Thanks for tuning in, guys. What I want to ask, back to Pete. I'll try to figure out YouTube, man, I'm so new to YouTube, but I'll try to figure out YouTube enough to shoot a link back to Pete. This is what I want to know. I want to know your two biggest moments of knife remorse. When did you sell a knife? And as you're slipping it into the package, just like feel this feeling of, I shouldn't have placed this on eBay or wherever you sold it. Two biggest knife remorse, two redesigns. If you could take any manufactured production knife, change the steel, change the thickness, change the handle slightly, what are the two knives? If somebody came to you and, you know, Benchmade, Spyderco, anybody was like, hey, we want to produce an exclusive for your channel, what would you make? I'll film my response to those and post it up in a day or two, and I'll link it back to Pete. I'll throw in a quick honorable mention here because I have a knife, a folding knife that I actually built myself. It's made out of a Opinel kitchen blade paring knife that I turned into a clip point rather than a drop point, and a couple layers of linen micarta and some stainless steel. I didn't put this in the list because you can't buy it, and I wanted to cover mainly knives that you guys would have access to. But I do love this knife because it's perfect for what I built it for. It's got a sturdy enough liner lock, not real great, but sturdy enough. It's got 4 inches of blade, and I take this out camping with me and use it for all my kitchen prep. And man, when I put it in my hand when I'm out, you know, camping, I just feel like, man, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. I'm gonna weigh it right now. So 25.5 grams. I'll throw up what that is in ounces, but it's ludicrous. So I can slip this in my pack and it weighs almost nothing. But man, when I sit down next to the campfire with my eggs and bacon going and I go to cut up my onion, I have such a rewarding feeling of like, I built this knife from like scrap metal and it works so well. Thank you guys for viewing. Thanks so much for tuning in. For now, I'll just say, hey, peace out from the Home Slice. Hey, Mara.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good.
You eating your cookie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you put a stick in our car?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
I put it there for camping.
For camping? Cool. Nice. Mara, do you see Uncle Pete's videos sometimes?
Yeah, he's just a goofball.
He's a goofball? Do you want to say anything to him? You want to say hi, Uncle Pete?
Hi, Uncle Pete.